Boom. Take one.
Take one. Well, we've got an amazing guest here today. We got Stef Moro.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes, thank you for joining us on a special episode of Tea Time. You know, this is our first guest officially.
First guest.
You know, Stef is a longtime friend. You know, he's an incredible engineer. You know, he's going to be able to kind of segue us into that aspect of things. But I guess first and foremost, man, like we said, welcome. Thanks for coming by today.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, we met when I first came here in LA during the last time, like after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Almost during the pandemic.
Mhm.
It was still
Right at the beginning.
No,
Yeah.
like,
right at the
during that
beginning.
whole
Whatever was going on. Yeah.
that whole era of
And
like
you guys saw the studio like naked, pretty much. Like,
Dude, we saw the garage. It was still a
garage. It was
garage.
a
Yeah,
garage
it was
back
still a
then.
garage.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it came a long way. I mean,
Yeah.
you and Irko put together quite an incredible
exactly.
studio facility, living quarter kind of HQ situation. I mean, you guys have like all rooms connected now, and you guys could stream and record from anywhere. And I mean, you guys really built out a great project. What was that? What was that like building sort of a hybrid setup? I would say, as far as like being able to record live performances from anywhere in the house, and what goes into even tying something like that together?
So like Irko had this project of building his studio B3, that is his third studio in LA years and years ago. So like more or less 8 years ago he asked me to be part of this. So of course being after a lot of studios and being on our but like connections,
No, for sure.
all of that, we started planning even the wiring of the studio and the gear years and years before. I still have like some scratch off like 6-7 years ago. I was trying to figure out like Dante, that back then wasn't even a thing, or
It
almost.
wasn't super advanced at the time.
Yeah, so we were lucky to we had a lot of time because he built the studio from scratch. So it was a parking lot back then. So we had a lot
really
of
from scratch.
yeah,
From the ground up. Literally.
Yeah.
yeah, for real.
It's crazy.
So
How did you meet Irko in the first place?
So when I was 21 years old, I came here to LA for like a couple of weeks and for the NAMM show, almost like, just to see like
The
music
vibe.
convention, not even to like.
Oh, you went to
the
NAMM?
States. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That was the main reason for my first time here, and after 3 days, I figured that this is the place that I want to be.
Yeah, you kind of get a feeling for when you come to LA, like just the history of the music, and you still go to parts of Hollywood and they're stuck in the 80s. You get the whole rock and roll scene is alive and well in the city. Then you have the modern side of things, with all the influences and stuff. But it's really just such a mecca for like creators and just creative people, not even just music people, but like obviously the film industry is here, everything. So what was that like coming from Italy? Where it has sort of its own culture, obviously, and it's its own way of doing things, specifically, I'm sure, in music, too. But what would you say was, like, the biggest difference you've noticed?
So when I was 21, I had no idea how the music industry is here. And, like, at first I was just like, okay, I want to move here because, like, the music history out here, the big labels, big artists, big producers. But I didn't know English, like, none of that. So I started just coming here 6 months every year, and after a couple of years I met Irko.
So you met him actually in LA?
Yeah.
And then you guys found out you guys are both from
exactly.
Italy.
Wow.
The craziest thing is that we're from the same city in Italy, that is...
That's even crazier.
Yeah, Conegliano, that is, nearby Venice, like 30.
How many people are in that town?
Not even 30,000, so it's like a very small town.
Wow.
So you could have met him a ton of times in theory prior
Had he
to
stayed
meeting
in
him.
Italy,
Yeah,
probably built music there.
yeah.
Probably would have ran into him eventually.
And
sooner or later.
the funny part is that I've heard of him many times.
Yeah.
But I thought that he was in New York because he used to live in New York, and
Right.
he worked for Jay-Z like in 2006. So in my hometown, he was like a legend.
Yeah, hometown legend.
But I was just in LA, so I didn't even think about like
Right.
Irko or like other.
And it's such a big city when you get here. It's like you forget about.
Yeah. So when we first met, I remember like at a Chick-fil-A for like a, just like drink or something. He started talking, like about these projects and his goals and everything. And after some years, like just collaborating together, he asked me to like be part of this, and of course I said yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean it's crazy how two people with the same goal end
Yeah.
up working together from the same city without knowing each other at all.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I also worked with a lot of artists that used to work with Irko years and years before. So
No, I mean, well, when you meet Irko, he comes off as a very serious but fun guy. I mean, he's very professional,
very.
like very driven.
Mhm.
He has a great mindset. In regards to everything that he does. Is nothing is out of the realm of possibility, and it's just he works hard and he knows exactly what he wants.
Super focused guy.
Super focused
yeah.
guy, and it's kind of like. Thankfully, I have Barry. Keep me on my toes all the time. But
Stop it.
when you have people that are very task
Yes.
oriented and are driven, you can really make some incredible things happen.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I was super lucky for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and would you say his kind of energy rubbed off on you in a positive way in
Oh
that
yeah,
regard?
it totally changed me. Like before in Italy, like in my small hometown,
Yeah.
I was the only one that not the only one, but I really took it seriously till the very beginning.
Yeah.
I just started working at 15 and tried to like do my own thing, and so I was very like focused on my career and everything. But when I like started working with Irko, I figured how many things I had to like improve or like
Right.
totally change. Like, and of course, LA is a big city, and he came to America when he was super young, like 22 years old,
Yeah.
and without any, like he didn't have someone like Irko. Like
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I have someone that
That's
had
amazing, yeah.
experience, like
For
15
sure.
years experience in the music industry out here as an immigrant, because like
Yeah.
going through the whole immigration
Mhm.
and
For sure.
it is a lot.
It's a big challenge,
So,
and it could be intimidating too.
Mhm.
When you're young and you're just trying to start working, and it's such a process.
Mhm.
My parents are both immigrants, so I definitely can understand some of their struggles, and but it's a beautiful thing
Yeah.
really when you get to come here
Oh,
fresh
yeah.
and just make amazing things happen. I think that's part of obviously the most attractive thing about America though for foreigners is that you have the ability to come here and set
Yes.
yourself up in whatever industry that you really want to
Mhm.
do.
I was gonna say though, you're talking about like that moment of meeting Irko, and like for essentially like what type of advice would you give to artists when they realize that a moment like this is happening? Like how do you realize that this person can change my life or this moment can change my life? And how do you like move forward from there? What's the next step once you realize that that's happening?
So to me, like the main thing is that of course I didn't have nothing big to bring to the table if not me and my time, because
Right.
back
Of course.
then, like being no credits, no big credits back then at all, like almost no English, like definitely no papers and stuff. Like in order to like collaborate with someone that is bigger than you, like you should like offer something and bring something to
Add
the table.
value.
Add value.
Yeah.
So it's so yeah, that's how it happened. Of course I wanted to like be here and like even learn from someone like that. It's not just like mixing or like like it's
How to
it's
handle
the
yourself
whole,
in the
yes.
whole industry.
In the
Yeah.
business world in
Yeah.
general, yeah.
Mhm.
It's two different beasts, like it's important obviously to be skilled and talented, but having the ability and the knowledge to know how to maneuver through the city, get business, get work, it's just about that. It's a whole nother topic of conversation,
Yeah.
and we see it all the time with with artists that are very talented but perhaps don't know how to
Read the room.
not even read the room but get themselves out there.
Mm.
Get to a position where their incredible work is going to be able to be seen by a lot of people
Sure.
and really advance them in their career. That's why it's important to have people that can help you get to that next stage. Collaboration is a huge key of success at the end of the day.
Mhm.
But that's amazing that Irko was, taking after you and taking care of your development and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask because I know your background. You came from Italy and you set up your own studio and stuff like that. I'm sure. You come from a very musical perspective. How did you find out that you enjoyed mixing specifically? Like, how did you land there? How did you arrive at this is what I love to do within music?
So my father is a musician. He's a piano player and a singer.
Nice.
So of course, till I was like a kid, in my head it was just possible to like make music as a job,
I'm sure we all start out wanting
Exactly.
to be the star,
So I knew that I wanted to do music. I didn't know what exactly. So at first it's like, of course you want to be the artist. So I didn't sing back then. So not even right now. But yeah, it was guitar at first. So
Yeah.
I started as a guitar player, And I did study, a lot, and I did tours and all of it. So it used to be my job
That's
for,
what I'm
for
saying.
a little
Yeah,
while.
you
But
come
to
from
be
a very musical background.
yes, but to be a good musician, you gotta record yourself, and So I started recording myself to learn how to be on time when I was a kid, pretty much.
Right.
Because like that's what my teacher back then told me. It was like, just record
Well,
yourself.
Playing music and creating an album and being a
Exactly.
studio artist, it's very different things.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the beginning. Then I had to record my band and then my friends. And it just started as I just liked it to just be at home at first. I created like a small home studio, like
Yeah.
a really small home studio. And I started like recording my friends. That's how it
Yeah.
started. But
Because you were the one that knew how to do it, so the responsibility kind of fell on you to
Yeah.
be the engineer,
yeah, of course.
kind of by force.
But yeah, I mean, I was the one that at some point when I was 19, I was selling guitars, I was selling mics, I was doing tours,
That's hard.
living in a
Mm.
like pretty much staying in a recording studio like every night, and what else? I used to teach guitar. Like I just didn't know what to do, so I was trying
You
to
just
do
wanna be
like
involved in
everything.
it. Yeah,
exactly. At some point, I had to pick just one thing, and I had this opportunity to like set up a studio, like a big studio, with two other engineers in Italy. So I was like, okay, if I want to do this and actually pay the rent, I have to like I have to do that only and not the other thing. So I just one day I just left all of the other.
Mm-hmm.
You had to hone in on a specific
Mhm.
skill set.
So
to-
that
to
really
just start
changed me.
making
So I was
money.
like, okay, now to pay rent and everything, I just have to like mix and record. That's it.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that's probably the hardest for an artist to do, like at a really good level, to mix themselves and get the record sounding how it needs to be. So it's one of the best services you could offer as like a music professional.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say is like the main difference between, I guess, how the studio sort of operated there and like the type of clientele that you're working with, expectations? Obviously, it's a lot different with the stuff that you're doing now. Like, what are some of those differences, would you say?
Well, first thing is that back then, so this we're talking about 10 years ago.
Right.
So like in Italy and in Europe in general, the whole like the music industry was more focused on like live bands or like singers,
Yeah.
not rap music. that much.
Like Eurovision type vibes.
And where I'm from, it was mostly like bands.
Yeah.
So rappers had no money. There were no music labels for rap music. Like major labels had probably, I don't know, 3 artists back then. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't a thing. So I was. That's why when I came here, I was like, okay, I want to move here. Like it was really different.
Well, I feel like
back
even then, like the best of the best from all over the world usually end up here or in New York, one way or another. This is where the majority of the business goes.
Yeah,
on.
no,
Yeah.
of course. And right now it's like a trend, rap music. But back then I used to record a lot of live bands.
Sure.
So like everything changed even because of that. I was doing like bands almost every day.
Were you recording to a console back
Yeah,
then?
yeah. I had a like
Yeah.
a
Wow.
big Neve, not big, but like a nice
Yeah,
Neve
Different
console.
times.
And yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I know we were talking earlier. You said you probably wouldn't go back to that kind of workflow now that we have.
Maybe
know.
recording bands, it was like really, really
Right, because you have all the
fun.
inputs. It's a little
Recording,
easier,
yes.
for sure.
Mixing on console now.
I mean, you've done so many different genres and you've worked with so many different artists. Not like in specific which your favorite artist to work with is, but what genre do you like working in the most, or do you prefer to work in when you're in a recording session specifically?
Well, it really depends by the artist, to be honest, and the vibe that is in the room at the end of the day.
Right.
Because like that's everything. It's like a
You want to have a
very
good time at the end of the
personal-
day.
Yeah.
It is that, but I have no. I would say pop R&B, so like good singers.
Yeah.
But it really depends by the artist. Like I have some artists that I'm always just there laughing. Like, how can you do that in like 20 minutes? It really depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, has there been any session you could think of that like surprised you? Perhaps it was just maybe a session or a genre you weren't really hasn't worked on many times, but you found it to be fun or surprising in any way.
Yeah. So I can mention like this session that I had like a month ago with Dreezy, that is like a female rapper, like really, really good, and singer.
Oh, you showed me her when I was there last time.
no.
Yeah, she's fire.
Yeah, and the thing is that we started recording an R&B song, with a vocal producer, like, so of course it takes some time, like, I don't know, 3-4 hours to like do the rough mix. And so at the end of the session, the producer Darius, he started just playing some beats, and he just played this like rap trap beat, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, let me just go in the booth, and in literally 15-20 minutes we had like a song done, like
wow.
was, like recording. I was like, wow. So
wow.
Yeah. So
I feel like the skill set of the artist for sure matters. Some people who have more experience maybe recording are able to, and I guess it's how prepared you are at the end of the day. If you know exactly how you want the song to sound and you've rehearsed the performance enough, perhaps, yeah. Depending on the complexity of the song.
In this case, it was a freestyle.
Exactly.
Like,
it could just be you just nailed it right then and there.
Sometimes you just get a little piece of genius, and that's all you can do.
It's true.
It's true.
It's like lightning in the bottle. You just capture it.
You capture
it. Right moment, right? Yeah. Vibe.
Well, what are some of your favorite mics? I know we were talking about it before. Like, you have a big collection of mics. How'd you come about, doing that? And what are some of your favorite ones to work with?
So, yes, I love mics. That's something that...
Who doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, I have more than I should, probably. But
what's the exact number? Do you have it? Do you know?
Around 60 right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe a little more, but yeah.
Holy moly.
For a little bit.
Combination of dynamic and condenser,
Yeah,
you're saying?
and even vintage mics.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it really depends. If we're talking about, like, vocal mics, of course, the classic Sony is what I use, I would say 50% of the time.
Yeah.
I usually start with that one for like.
And if you feel the need to change it, you might. Pull out a different one, right?
Yeah, usually you can hear it right away if it's not the right mic.
Yeah, especially with the C800, I feel like it's if the type of artist and vocal coming in is like even a little too, forward in like the 3 to like 8K, like if it's too much, like that mic is just gonna be.
It sounds almost
torture.
distorted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the S's are just crazy. But then I have some artists that come in on the C800 and it's like a perfect fit.
Exactly.
And then I'm just like, wow, I would not trade this mic forever for anything. But then you get instances where you're just like, okay, I gotta go for like a 47 style.
Yeah, it's like a Drasa mic at the end of the day. It's like,
like
a lens or. Like,
I mean, I feel like it's very similar. I mean, to people that maybe are more familiar with cameras, like. And you guys could probably quote me on that, but like different cameras shoot in a different way. They present you with a different picture. The actor may even look completely different. Depending on the style. Like, same thing goes for vocal mics. Like they each have their own. It's
a different product
and little nuances that may shape the tone of the vocal. And every artist has a different tone and shape to their vocal, so it's kind of like a puzzle piece you have to just put together and match. But you said the C800, so if it's not that, what would you say is like?
So one mic
that like a backup mic
that I bought like a year ago is the Manly, the gray one. How's it called? The silver. Yes, and that's a great mic. So Manly gave us for like a couple of months like all of their mics.
Wow.
So
you got to test them out.
Yeah, and I've used all of them, but never like all
like that.
Together, right? So I ended up like buying that one right away because it's
you're just blown away.
You don't hear a lot of mics that have sort of a flat response, but still with character and so
mojo.
Yes, so that's a very very versatile mic, and I use that a lot, to be honest. But then it really depends. But like Neumanns are like really good for certain.
Yeah.
Like in Italy we use, and in Europe in general I feel we use a lot the U87. That sounds good, very good for that type of vocals. But it really depends by the genre.
Yeah.
Too.
Do you like tube mics as opposed to tubeless mics? What is your opinion in general with like tube gear and stuff like that? There's obviously a lot of conversation around tube gear. What do you got to say about something like that?
Mics, yeah, of course, like the classic like. Big tube mics is the classic, so of course I'll always go with it. But it really depends. Like if it's pop, rap, yes, you gotta go with a nice mic, nice sounding vocal, But like if it's other kinds of music, or if you want to have more of a vintage vibe, you can you can use like literally anything. Like
Yeah.
I remember albums that I recorded with an SM57 instead of the Sony.
Yeah.
So like
Well, I was literally just gonna ask, like, has there been instances where you're just like, you know what, I want just a dynamic mic for this specific artist. Maybe it's a sibilance thing, maybe it's just a dynamic thing, literally for the the type of song that you're working on. Have you noticed? Because I remember the weekend, for example, he mentioned for My Dear Melancholy, he did the whole thing on SM7, and it sounds fantastic, but it has a different characteristic. So, do you find yourself using dynamic
I
mics?
use a lot of times two mics, so I can have the classic tube mic, so you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
But also another mic, so I record two in three different channels. So the first channel is the tube mic without any compression, that I always keep it muted, but
Just to have that take. in
just
case,
to have
yeah.
it just in case if I'm not compressing too much, or I don't know. And then the compressed version of it, that is gonna be
Through
what
the actual
the artist
the chain,
will hear,
yeah.
and what I usually reference while I'm recording.
Yeah.
And the third one, it's something that I just put there and hope that it'll sound great for something that I might not use.
Yeah.
But in some cases, I just use it for like ad libs. A lot of times, to be honest, and usually it's a dynamic mic.
Interesting.
Usually it's an SM57, just because it's very
Yeah.
easy to like
I've noticed that,
place.
a lot of times when you're trying to do like doubles or ad libs and stuff, and it's with the same exact mic, it might,
Clash.
it might clash. But even you want the ad libs and the doubles to feel like I have a different character
Mhm.
to them, almost as if they're in like a different place in the room, or like in a different day they did it, or like a different headspace. A lot of mics, if you're using the same thing, it'll be in like the same headspace, and it won't be like
Yeah.
different enough. So the dynamic mic definitely helps, I feel like, in
Yeah.
that regard. But you said you had a few questions.
I
you
do.
wanted to get into.
Yes. So, like, how do you essentially maintain, like, a balance between an artist's vision and what your vision is for the song? Obviously, as an engineer, you're trying to achieve what their vision is for the song, but obviously, if they're coming to work with you, you have to provide that as well. So, like, what's the middle ground as an engineer that's working with, obviously bigger artists as well?
Usually the rough mix is the key. So
Mm.
90% of or 99% of the times, the artist is already happy with what's going on with the rough mix, and the producer too. So even if it might not sound like good, like you gotta capture the idea and the concept behind that, and not just do another song, or just
Right.
So
Do they like wet vocals, or are they more dry lead, or like how do the harmonies incorporate into things? And you just kind of take the blueprint and work off of that.
yes, and I always ask for like processed files and unprocessed.
Yeah.
And I always try to start with the processed ones. Maybe not with the vocals, the lead vocal, but I might use the drums with their plugins. And if I have to like undo something, I just go back to
Yeah.
Sure.
So
'Cause a lot of the times I feel like when they send it to you, that's kind of like the soundscape of it, or like just the production, just to get to that sound.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's not distorting, a lot of times you just want to work off of that.
Mhm.
I feel like,
and even there, sometimes it is distorting,
and that's the sound of
that's
it.
the
And
That's
sound
the
of
goal,
it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like sometimes while you're producing, you're not really thinking too much from an engineer perspective, like
Yeah.
to keep everything like
Mm-hmm.
clean and nice. You just add stuff and create like a new sound.
Yeah.
That
Is
it's
it-
for me, it's hard to like.
Is there something you would say though is like a no as far as like how you should prepare files for like a producer? Like, is there anything that's out of bounds? Would you say, like if someone's getting ready to send vocals or their session over or whatnot? I mean, I guess it's more helpful if you have the entire Pro Tools session. But what would you do in an instance where perhaps the vocals just was not done maybe correctly, or you don't have sort of a backup take or something like that? Has that happened
Yeah.
perhaps recently or something like
Yeah,
that?
all types of things, of course, but like I would say, well, while bouncing, just so I see all type of things. One thing is don't bounce with your master, like the old
Right.
processing on.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, you can send audio files that are actually clipped if you did it on the rough mix, because that's what you did. But if you do it 32 beats and not 24.
Right.
So at least you're not like really really clipping. So that's one thing that it really depends. So I always suggest to always send dry and wet files.
Got you.
But yeah, even there, like it doesn't make sense to like do a sound of a bass or a kick drum and put your plugins on and just to send the same track without the plugins, because it's literally like another sound. So
and it's hard for you to replicate just based on ear. It could be like ever so slightly different. But I guess I wanted to ask, would you say, as far as when people go ahead and record their songs and they're trying to send it to an engineer or whatnot, do you prefer that they record it at like 44.1 or 48, or like is there a specific sort of, if you had to give them a foundation, what would the settings be, would you say is ideal?
So back in the days, the only playback was CD and not digital,
right,
and not Spotify, because right now a lot of Tidal, they accept like bigger quality, like better quality. I always record at 48, but I'm not tripping over it.
Right.
Like, it's just that nowadays we can do it, so why not?
Why not?
And with live bands you can hear a little more of a difference because you have more like live instruments. So back then I used to do even 88, 0.2 or like 96. Right now I don't really like.
I saw a clip of Chris Lord-Alge who was saying like if he's doing bands, it's usually 96 on the way in, just so you have I guess the best resolution. Why not, just to start with, because it's gonna end up getting degraded down the lines one way or another.
Just that it's if you mix in 96, you need to have like big computer, and if you have like big sessions with like 200 tracks, it's kind of hard to like handle. But it's, I don't know, like 40K, it's enough, like range of frequencies. So I feel like 48 is good. It's enough. But
what would you say, like because you were saying like sometimes you have sessions when you're in there for like 10-15 hours maybe locked in.
Oh yeah.
Some projects do require that in a short period of time or something like that. Like what are your best tips to like just survive a long studio session like that,
Other than coffee?
Other than coffee, because I feel like there's only so much coffee could do for you.
Yeah,
after
exactly.
15 hours.
Mr. 20 shots of coffee over here. Yeah.
After your 8th cup, it kind of starts to cap out.
Well, have like
how do you keep your ears fresh even like that?
Stuff
like that,
volumes. Just very low volumes. I check with headphones and like loud volumes just at the end of the mix, the last 5% of the time.
Yeah.
And I take breaks, no problem, even every hour if I have to. Like when I feel like that I'm like stuck on something,
just I'm walk away from it.
If I'm mixing, I don't know, the vocal for more than 10 minutes and I'm still not happy, I have to take a break.
Yeah, it's true. Makes sense.
Be more,
because you get to a point where your ears are just fatigued and you're not really making the correct decisions. You might actually end up harming the session more than helping it. It's oftentimes I come back after like a long mixing session. I come down and like within the first 15 minutes, I know exactly like what I want to change, and it like feels so obvious when you're there and with fresh ears. You're like, oh wow, like I was not listening to this the same way when I was in there.
And also going from one song to the other, like not mix just one song. Like okay, tomorrow I'm gonna mix that song and that's it. Like I usually I have one song that I'm gonna mix for like 5 hours in a day, but I try not to mix for more than 5 hours
per song
in a day.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Do you ever bounce from like different, like if you have like 3 songs you're currently working on, do you ever have sessions where you're just kind of dipping and dabbing into different ones to keep your ears fresh, or do you like to sit down with one at a time?
So first day usually I just prep the session. So once I have the files from the client, I just prep the session, and that means still like it is a big part of the mix, because of course with my template and everything I have to be sure that the levels are just like in the rough mix and all of that. So it is like a good hour, I would say.
Getting to the starting point of the mix.
That is still like a rough. It's still like
It
doesn't, it's not just importing the tracks and that's it.
Sure.
It's volume,
arranging things in a comfortable way.
But then I just leave maybe it's the first time that I hear it to the song, so it's good to like just leave it there for like a day.
No, for sure. And then you kind of come in and it's fresh, and then
Yes,
you
and
can
it's fresh.
right away dive in and start making
Mhm.
decisions
Yeah,
from the first second.
exactly. And I already have everything like organized, like
Yeah.
routing and everything. And second day is usually, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 hours. It really depends by, how complex is
Yeah.
the track or the production, or I don't know. And the third day is usually just checking if I finish like a mix at 5 a.m., I'm not gonna send it to the client. Of
Yeah,
course.
that's true.
So I gotta check
That's
it.
a good tip, guys. Don't send the file at the end of a long work day.
No, don't do it.
Definitely don't do it, because you're gonna have regrets.
No.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, and that 5, 10, 15 minutes that you spend during the third day just being like, oh yeah, I love the mix, but I don't know, there's like this frequency at 500 that I want. You'll hear it right away. Or
Yeah.
like, oh, the clap is too loud because
Yeah.
I was started at 5 a.m.
Right.
like, or
Yeah, no, I feel you.
that boost on the master on the high frequencies
Right.
like too much. Yeah, classics.
So for me, it's like, well, whenever I get a song to mix, let's say, I usually will just I'll take the rough demo and I'll just play it in the car, like on the way to work or on the way wherever I'm going on a walk. Like I'll just listen to it like I listen to every other song, because that gets me more familiar with the song, and I feel like once I know what the song is, I can better think what it's gonna be. So do you have like a process where you get familiar with the record that you're working on?
Yeah. So 3 days are enough for me to like.
Yeah, in the process you're just listening
Yes,
to the whole bunch.
but last day, so the third day, I check it. Of course, studio, so like big speakers, small speakers, but also headphones. So that's usually the first time that I use headphones in a mix.
Yeah.
And usually, like, you hear more reverbs and stuff. So there are like a couple revisions that I just do. Earpods usually are not a big deal. I just do it because I know them, and I have 2 types of headphones that I really trust. So between one and the other, I can like understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't do car tests because I don't have a car right now in LA. They told you I don't need one right now. I'm always
No,
at the
yeah.
studio.
I mean, usually also most people's cars are just so different. than,
Exactly,
like,
even
any
that.
others. Like it's
Mhm.
inevitably gonna sound different in their car.
But yeah, I used to do that a lot, to be honest. But
Yeah.
Like
There's those famous vlogs of Irko, like in the car doing car tests.
that was before to have the
Yeah.
the studio. Now he doesn't do.
He doesn't do so much
car
car
tests.
tests.
No, not at all.
Well,
Because of the studio, of
right.
course. He used
'Cause
to.
he one of the things that he says is like the most important thing in the studio is just the listening environment. Like before gear, before plugins, before anything else, it's the room that you are listening in and mixing in has to
Feel
sound
good.
correctly. No, well, it's like the way the sound gets projected in a room. By the time it hits your ear, it's already different than what
Mhm.
actually the source is.
Yeah.
So you want to get as close and as honest to the source as possible, meaning you want to hear your speakers as intended. If you don't have a well-treated room, you're not going to be hearing the sound as intended, and your mixing decisions are going to suffer in
Mhm.
consequence because you're just not listening to the correct sound. But if you have a studio that is geared towards mixing and it sounds good in there, you might not even have to make so many different tweaks or car tests or things like that. Will sound good because you can have that confidence that what I was hearing and mixing actually sounds correct.
And also, you know the room really well. Like, if
Familiarity
you're always
with the
in
mix,
the
yeah,
in
for
same
sure.
room. Irko used to like mix in all of the best studios in America, but it was like every time a different studio. So one conversation that we had years and years
Yeah.
ago, it was like, I need my own place, so I don't have to like do car tests and
Consistency.
not all of. I mean, all of the studios are different. So even if you have like 3 good sounding studios,
Even if they're world-class studios,
They still sound different.
if they're all
yeah.
different,
Mhm.
it's like you're not
Yeah.
gonna be able to get used to
Yeah.
and see what the right sound is. No, that
Mhm.
makes sense. What would you say is like your favorite studio snack? What powers you besides for coffee? I guess coffee is a good studio snack.
It's not a snack. That's a beverage.
For an Italian, I feel like it classifies
that's
as a snack.
yes, it is. pretty
Coffee's
much.
a snack.
Yeah, like no, it's not a snack, but we
it-
do it like a lot of times. I don't really do snacks.
You haven't been to Italy.
Yeah, I've been to Spain though.
It's
Sheesh.
not as big there. I feel
Yeah,
like.
no.
Yeah, I'm all about coffee.
Okay, so just coffee.
Yeah, just coffee.
You got a good one.
Yeah.
You've worked with a lot of artists, Grammy-nominated legend, obviously. But
I love that.
if you had to work with 3 artists right now that you haven't worked with yet, Who are they?
Okay. Black Bear for sure.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire.
Bangers. Just knows how to do it.
One of the best writers.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Two more?
Two more. I mean, of course, I'll say Drake. He's the biggest, but yeah. And, but they already have, like, great engineers. They're good.
Yeah. I think he's done all right for himself.
Yeah.
His team seems to be knowing what they're doing.
They know
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah, I reference a lot of stuff, of course,
For
from
sure.
Drake, so I would say Drake, and let me think. Another one that I would love to work with. It is hard.
Just don't say Gunna.
No, I can't.
I'm joking.
Gunna's good, man.
Eh.
It's a studio artist. I think.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah.
He just released an album right now, so like he's
That's
good
true.
for a little while.
I haven't heard it yet. I haven't
heard
been
it
in a
yet.
rush.
Wait, we need this last artist. I need to know who the top one is. It could be someone that's not with us anymore either. It doesn't have to be. Just who would you work with?
Oh no, of course. No, I got it. Nas.
Nas? Oh wow.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good one.
Yes, he's my favorite rapper. So yeah.
Ever?
Really, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
who? Okay, that's a good question. Then who's your top 5 of all time? So you got Nas. Who else you got on there?
Doesn't have to be in any particular order.
No order, not
okay,
order.
Okay, no order. So Nas, Jay-Z. Are we talking about rappers?
Rappers,
Yeah, okay.
just rappers.
Nas, Jay-Z. Okay, well, I gotta say some classics, but well, yeah, Kanye, of course. It is kind of hard. Like the last
It's hard, man. There's a
two,
lot of good rappers.
You got Lil Wayne in there.
I do have Lil Wayne.
Yeah, you have
for sure.
to.
But like the last one, I would say Future. But that changed. Like the last one might change.
I love that.
But,
Yeah,
That's a good
it's
answer.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just simply because how influential he is. It's unbelievable.
You changed so much for music.
And his longevity when you start to think about like
Exactly.
how he started, where he started.
Oh, it's
the type of
nuts.
music that he was doing at first, and then he had this whole like Metro Boomin like revival.
And
Yeah.
he's a writer
I would say.
too. Like he actually
Yeah.
writes for others
He
too.
could write pop bangers. He could write songs for Rihanna.
He does it all,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's a good answer. No, I've never heard Future in a top 5.
I've heard him in a top 10 before.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you put Eminem in there?
So
or
I
how
started.
do you rate him?
So the reason why I started listening to hip hop music as a kid was because my cousin gave me this like CD with, it was the 8 Mile CD like DVD,
Nah,
right?
me
Soundtrack,
too.
yeah.
So and I started like listening to all of the classics. So and MTV too a little bit.
Yeah.
So Eminem like back then was like huge and
Iconic at a certain time. For
so I would have said Eminem first, like back in the days, of course.
sure. Yeah.
Right now, I still classics, but
What,
I
what
wouldn't
about like
put 'em-
Kendrick and J. Cole? How do you rate them?
I love them. Yeah, like
Would you say Kendrick is like GOAT
I was
status?
thinking like between like Kendrick and Future, and of course like I don't know, like Future he's been in the industry for a long time, and of course Kendrick he's an idol, and he comes from that Dre's like
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
he's
so
not Drake,
The
yeah.
West Coast, yeah.
and I started like listening to rap music because of that. So, but I'm still
I'm excited for Corday, man.
Yeah.
Corday's gonna have his day soon. I can feel it.
Yeah.
He's so talented.
Mhm.
Man.
Actually wanted to ask you, so like what are your thoughts on the current state of the music industry, both hip hop and just like the general like just the atmosphere of what's
Just the
going
vibe
on right now?
especially how it's social
The
media and
vibe?
everything.
Yeah, and like where do you see it
Definitely
where do you see it going and evolving over the next couple of years?
Well, definitely after the pandemic, like music labels and everyone was like, okay, so what's next?
Mhm.
So I think that we're in between what it was like before the pandemic.
And what it's
So,
gonna be.
Atlanta sound, like trap, like, 21 Savage, like all of that, the type of music, and people trying to like create something, I don't want to say new, but like with a different sound. So I feel like we're still going somewhere different than what it was before.
I think it's kind of trying to figure out it for itself.
Yeah,
Where it's
I don't
gonna
know. Doja Cat is like a good example. Like the track that she did, like a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It is like
Do you like it?
I love it.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love
It was
it.
pretty good.
I love it, and it is a hip hop track, but it's not like classic. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it
She's
is still
pop,
something
she's part of
different.
the pop culture.
Mhm.
Oh.
She's giant artist.
One of the biggest.
Her last album was like
Phenomenal.
I thought one of the best produced records I
Yes.
heard in a long time. Songwriting, production, the
everything.
mix. It is 10 out of 10.
She's a good songwriter in general.
She is,
Yeah.
You realize as you work in the music industry, it requires a certain amount of talent to get to that place.
Oh,
It's
of
no
course.
accident.
Yeah, there's no.
Like,
Yeah,
you
you're not a
know,
top 100.
Definitely not.
Yeah, you're not a
You
top
can't-
100
you can't
artist.
Give me
No.
the same people and we make the same album for me. Like,
No, there's
you
no
know what
shot.
I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you gotta know how to. You gotta know how to do it. I mean, she's been recording, making beats, producing herself for
Her
the
first
15
album
years,
was
yeah.
produced by her, pretty
exactly.
much. So, it's like,
So
what?
once
Yeah.
you get somebody like that in a room of
Blackbear is the
professional-
same thing. Like
Yeah.
writer, like
Producer.
You do.
engineer, like everything.
We did see
It's
that for a
crazy.
while. You know, this sort of like self-produced bedroom
The
people.
DIY. Yeah.
Sia. Sia is like she
Oh,
was
man,
writing for
Sia-
She's a
Rihanna.
genius.
Sia's made the biggest bags off the least. She wrote Diamonds in 8 minutes.
We don't know what her face looks like, dog.
My daughter looked just like Sia. You can't see her. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the best, I think.
Yes.
Being able to make tons of money in the music industry.
And no one knows what you look like?
What you look like down the street.
It's fire.
That's
And
that's
she still puts out her own gas music. She's not just writing for a bunch of
She
people.
could tour whenever she wants. Sia could probably announce a tour like that, and
Yeah.
it'll get sold out.
I'd
just
buy a
up there.
ticket.
Yeah.
See if you see this. I'll see ya. See ya.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
I got another
So
question. Are there any upcoming collaborations or projects that you've worked on that you're able to share with us, of course, that you're excited to hear come out this year?
Well, I have some like nice things on the way that are not like official, but I can talk about them like a
Sure.
little bit. January, I'll do like a little tour of like master classes in some schools.
Nice.
Nice.
In Europe and here, so that's definitely something
That's
that I
exciting.
haven't done.
Do you like teaching?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Some
But
people.
more than teaching is more like just show my perspective
Yeah.
and
Right.
you know, not like teacher like this is how you should mix a kick. No, not that type of but like
Sharing your experiences and just adding to that conversation.
exactly.
Mhm.
That's beautiful.
And what are some lessons that you've learned along the way of being an engineer, just through life in general?
Well, like human relationships are like the main thing in this music industry. So not just for engineers, but for anyone. So like to build a team and like find the right people to like collaborate with, it is still the most important thing.
Oh, yeah.
Even because like the people that work with me, of course, they know what I do and they like what I do, and of course I like what I do either. But like find your space in this industry is like the most like difficult
True.
thing because just me like coming from Italy like here, it changed me like and I was here, it was like, oh, it's not actually this hard, like I'm
Yeah.
just doing what I like and what I'm supposed to do. So
Yeah.
like just be in the right place.
Yeah.
So
And be genuine person. Like
Have
you
the
said.
have the right attitude for
Definitely.
sure. That's,
Yeah.
I think that's been the most important thing for me and Yoni's journey too. Is like me and Yoni started in such weird predicaments, and the attitude the whole time was very optimistic and very like open minded to taking on things that we didn't understand would affect the trajectory of what we were doing. And I think that's like the key to the music industry, is not saying yes to every single opportunity that comes your way, but recognizing that when those opportunities are in front of you, you have the option to either take it with a smile on your face, or you could not. And that it's important how you approach these situations and these relationships. I think the relationships, the biggest thing in the music, in any business though. It's not just the music industry. You gotta hold yourself a certain way and be approachable. So I think that's like,
yeah, the audio part, I feel like it's let's say 50% if we want, but like what if you're just with the wrong clients and they don't understand what you're doing, or in the wrong space, or like could be many things. You could be unappreciated in one place and
Right.
it
No,
might
it's
change
true.
just based on the people that you're working with. So that, and also like learning from others, and of course be humble, but that's in that's in general.
that's life.
So like
Yeah.
that's life pretty much. That's the
Well,
most
I guess that
difficult
answers,
thing.
Barry's question, because it's true. Like, it does show you that at the end of the day, I feel like, at least from my experience, is people that are in high positions and are already successful, they tend to be some of the nicest people that we meet for some whatever reason. I think there's a commonality to understand from that. But they truly from what I've seen, people, like I said, in those positions, they're happy to share that experience and to teach someone that they feel is like a good person and deserves it. You know, it's like, because if they're already in the industry and they're working in the industry, it's like they're not really worried about you competing or something like that, because it's such an individual thing that they're more so happy to share it with you if you're humble and a nice person and you just genuinely love it. Like, that's what I feel like they want to see more than anything.
Right.
Because we're gonna inevitably have to work with people in the industry. You might as well work with people that we want to be around. And it just makes the product 10 times better. Just speaking from experience, if I'm mixing for someone that I love as a person, like, even if you try to be impartial, you're obviously gonna input way more into the thing.
Oh, of course.
You want to see them succeed.
Exactly.
But if someone treats you
nasty,
like garbage, and even if the money is good, it's the certain like, okay, like, I only care so much about this project, and it is not beyond this money. But if it's somebody you love, it's like,
you want to do it.
Let's just make it awesome.
I think there's like a fine line of being hungry and being thirsty, because when someone's thirsty, you could really feel it. When someone's hungry, they're humble, they're approachable, again, just like using that word, but they're hard workers, and even if their intentions are a little off at the beginning, that's something that could change, especially if they're young. But if someone's hungry, you could taste it right away. You could really smell, like, really sense it. But if someone's like thirsty, they're like, yo, man, you trying to take a picture, like trying to get this on the gram. It's just like, all right.
They might be doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
Like, it's weird. So, like, yeah, like, it's on some weird shit. Yeah, it is. Like, it could be uncomfortable when someone's just like, oh, man, like, let me blah blah blah, like, whatever, like,
that's not gonna work.
Right off the bat,
because
it's
they're not
weird.
seeing you as a person; they're seeing you for what you've accomplished.
They're seeing you for your followers,
what
or
you can do for them. And you don't want to. You never want to be that person. It's like you said, you have to be honest with yourself and know that you can provide value, even if it's at whatever level.
Exactly.
If it's for an engineer and you don't, obviously you can't mix as well as them. Like, maybe perhaps you can help them set up sessions or something. Like, make yourself of value, and I'm sure that they're gonna return that to you.
And see the value in others too, like,
exactly.
even if they have no credits, if they're like young and unexperienced. Like, when I came here, like, when I first met Irko, I was like 22 years old, and of course, it was my job and everything, but it was still like like a young kid from there with no experience.
There's only so much experience at that time.
Of course. So the fact that someone like bigger than me trusting in me, that of course advantaged like me and him in the studio. So it's just see the potential on someone and not really just how many credits that person has or money or like whatever that could be.
No, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you only see someone for their accomplishments, then you're not going to see them for what they're able to do even more so in the future. If you only judge, oh, well, they only have worked with Madonna or they worked with Drake or like that, none of that matters, because those engineers can get lazy too. You might want to take a younger, hungrier person because they have more to prove most of the time, at least in my opinion. Like, I feel more to gain. Yeah, like there's just more at stake. Whereas, like, I don't know, Jimmy Iovine, he's not out here. He's not going to be caring. I'm not shit talking Jimmy Iovine. He's a goat, but like, I'm just saying he's not out here like really caring about records like that anymore. As opposed to like. And you shouldn't have to. But
the older you get, the better you get. The more experience you get, it's more big picture stuff.
Obviously. Yeah, of course.
Like Dre, as an example,
right?
He was already a billionaire, and he's still like, I mean, Kendrick, like all of these people.
Anderson .Paak, yeah.
You could tell it's out of love.
So
he loves the music.
Yeah. So
these are artists that he believes in, that he wants to bring up and
spend his time on, like,
and it's not just the money thing in this case,
because clearly it's not.
Yeah,
because he can come up with a different product that'll make him way more money.
Another $1 billion,
like you could tell.
Or Jay-Z too, like, he did that so many times. Or like Lil Wayne, that's another good example. Like, Drake, Nicki Minaj, like all of these people. Like,
I know he's so loaded, dude, but he's still recording and putting out music. Like, you could tell
Wayne's whole purpose on this earth though is rapping. Like, he literally he raps so much he doesn't even remember the lyrics to the hits.
I wouldn't even call him a rapper. I know he raps, but he's such a musician in that regard. That it's truly, he's an artist. This is his expression, this is his art, but he's an artist through and through. Everything that he does, whether it's skating or this and that, like, he's just an artist, man.
He's just the man. Yeah,
he loves doing it. those people, man, like you couldn't have changed anything about his life.
Mhm.
He could have never been anything else.
Have you worked with Wayne?
No, but I love to.
Oh,
Oh man,
I would love to.
I mean, that's one
But
of those people.
he's been working with the same people for like 20 years.
his whole life, yeah.
Might happen on maybe a feature or something in the
Be
future,
sick.
but-
Maybe for a movie or something, you never know, like a
Yeah.
soundtrack record. Like
But I
some
mean,
of those,
yes.
some of those get collected with some interesting people, and you're like, well, I'm mixing Lil
But
Wayne.
Yeah.
I'm working with Fresh right now that used to like, like he was Cash Money Records and everything. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
still
wow.
like that type of mindset and like workflow that I love. That it's not a thing in Europe. Like maybe right now it changed. I don't know. I haven't worked in there for
Right.
a little bit, but just go in the booth, just listen to like 3-4 beats. Okay, let's do this one. 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Boom, hit.
Wild.
And yes, that's that's crazy. So
Sounds like me and you, Yoni, back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm joking.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that pretty much wraps it up for us. But I just wanted to once again thank you so much for joining us today. This was a very insightful conversation for me personally, at least. Definitely for the viewers, I could tell you. And yeah, it's just such a pleasure every time we see you and talking to you. Easily one of the nicest people we've ever met, even regardless of the industry. We just have so much love for you. So thank you for coming. Barry, you have any final things?
It's my
to
guy,
say?
man.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. All right, well, that wraps it up with another successful episode of T Talks. And yeah, do you want to, before we go, maybe drop any of your socials or anything like that? Where can people find you, connect with you, possibly?
So it's Stef STF audio stylist on Instagram, and then you can find the links.
We'll put a nice fancy
Right here.
here.
Also,
Fancy
can we
text.
say welcome to Green Tea Studios in Italian real quick? We need that.
Benvenuti a Green Tea Studios.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
And then, as always, shout out Ursa Productions. You guys are goats behind the camera. I wish you guys could see them.
Sensational.
Sensational.
Yeah.
It's a great
Best.
team we got over here, man. That's a wrap. Thank you guys.
Julio, yeah.